Today we're going to work on some fundamental scooping skills. Last week we worked on some fundamental or some commonly missed tricks that we don't test a whole bunch with our athletes. And what we want to do this week is kind of go back to the basics of scoops, because a lot of these scoops that we're going to show you now are a bridge for later on. If you can get some of these scoops that we'll show you, then some of the scoops that you'll learn in level 3, level 4, some of the harder skills, you'll be able to understand how they work and why they work by working on these and testing your athletes with them.
So the skill that you just saw is a basic traveler scoop done with a double bounce. And this skill is important not only for pairs routines and things of that nature, but also for show elements like traveler. You saw us go both directions. Also very important just to be able to translate that skill right and left. A couple of just important aspects of scooping. You always want to make sure as the scooper or the one with the rope that you don't turn your hips or your shoulders when you scoop. It's more of a shuffling motion. And basically as soon as the rope passes under the scooper's feet, they are free to move behind their jumper. So the rope's behind, you can move behind the jumper. That way, as the rope passes over both of your heads, it's ready to scoop, and then you can move back out. Now, another important thing is that you don't move out too early. If you move out too early, then this type of thing will happen, okay? And the rope actually won't make it under either one of your feet. So you have to make sure that you jump and move as the rope's coming up, you stay there, and then move out again as the rope's coming up. So those are just basic things to remember. One more thing that we see kind of as a common mistake, whenever you're moving and getting behind your jumper, you want to make sure that your shoulders are lined up, okay? So you shouldn't be able to see anything but the back of that person's head. If you're in that position, you're in a pretty good position to make the scoop every time. If you're offset a little bit, then the rope can slice and hit your jumper in the head, which is never fun. So those are the basics of a double bounce scoop. One way to make the double bounce scoop a little bit more difficult is to do the same thing but in single bounce. All the same principles and everything hold true. You just want to make sure that you're ready to react a little bit faster. And I would say communication is a little bit even more important when everything's moving faster. So here's how it looks. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
We're going to work on a blind traveler scoop. It looks like this. Good, so with this one, what's going to end up happening, as I complete my jump, I'm going to move in front of my partner. So I cannot see my partner, so I have to make sure is that as I cover them up, I reach really big. Once it clears both of us, then I'm actually going to slide over to the other side. It's very important that you don't actually move away too early, kind of like what we showed in the other video, because if so, we'll come here and then we'll catch them in the back. So what we want to make sure that we do is we take our jump, we get behind, we make sure it clears both of us, and then once it clears both of us, that's your cue to actually get to the other side. So one more time, it looks like this. Jump, jump, jump. If you want to take it up a notch, what you can do is do that same thing in single bounce. So I'll take 2 jumps here, I'm going to move in front of Kaylee, get 1 jump, I'll take 2 jumps over there, and I'll come back. It looks like this. 1, 2, 1, 2.
The next skill that we're going to talk about is a full turn scoop. It looks like this. So this is basically a full turn like you would see in any individual routine, but now you're putting your partner in the middle of it. So with that, you want to make sure that you can do a full turn by yourself before adding your partner into it. Full turn looks like this, or to the other side. Okay, so now, like I said, we're putting our partner in the middle. The scoop happens as you turn around for that 180. You'll notice that I did a side swing before I scooped. That's not always necessary, but it does make the skill a little bit easier, and it kind of sets your body in the right angle to be able to scoop your partner. So after that side swing, all you need to do is reach up and then turn, and it's actually going to be a backward scoop. So you line up your shoulders, make sure that that rope goes underneath your partner's feet, and then clears their head all the way before you continue moving. Okay, so again, as you turn for that 180, goes underneath the feet, comes up, and you finish your rotation. So those are the main things that we see. This is often a really good skill to teach your level 2-ish jumpers that maybe aren't ready for really difficult skills, but it just helps them master the basics even more. Okay, so a full turn scoop, one more time, looks like this.
All right, we're gonna work on a double under scoop. Looks like this. So with this one, what you wanna make sure is that you are one behind your jumper and have a set number of counts. It could be a ready, set, go, it could be a 1, 2, 3, whatever that is. Ours was 2 jumps. When you get into the actual double under, you wanna make sure that you and your partner are jumping the same height. And as the scooper, you wanna make sure you got 2 things to really worry about. You gotta turn a little bit bigger, and then you also have to follow through. So as you're turning bigger, don't, shoot.
Pull out.
Yeah,
Don't pull your arms out.
don't pull your arms out. Somebody is looking in.
Leave us alone.
Yeah. Okay. We are going to work on a double under scoop. It looks like this. So with this scoop, what you want to make sure is that you are one behind your jumper. When you get behind your jumper, make sure you have a certain count. It could be 3 jumps, it could be ready, set, go. Ours was 2. When you get back there and you start the double under, you want to make sure that you and your jumper are jumping at the same height. That's the first thing. Then you also want to make sure as the scooper that we are turning our hands pretty big because you have to account for a second person. As you turn your arms big, don't have your arms out, because if you have your arms out, it's going to bring the rope up high. It's already hard enough to jump that with 1 person, so with 2, it'd be really hard. And then the last thing is you want to make sure that you actually follow through. So as you're going through, make sure your wrists are always kind of spinning on the outside just like this, and finishing each revolution of the rope so it makes it past both of you. So once again, we'll show you this double under scoop. We'll take 2 jumps, a double under, and then we'll get out. Set, go.
The next set of skills that we'll be talking about are frog and push-up scoops. We're going to lump those together a little bit because the same principles apply to both. So here's what they look like. Here's a frog. Ready? And here is a push-up scoop. Cool, so there are several ways to do this, but this one that we've showed you is pretty analogous to what we saw earlier with our full turn scoop, except for right now, we're just not finishing that full turn, okay? We're just coming out of it after that 180. The most important thing by far as the scooper to remember on power scoops with frogs and push-ups is that you have to completely finish your scoop before you pull back. A lot of kids that we teach will actually start their frog scoop perfectly. They'll get the rope under their jumper's hands, but then they see this set of feet flying towards them as their jumper does the frog, and instead of leaning into that set of feet and finishing and following through, they'll actually see it and then pull back too early. If that happens, the rope actually catches on your jumper's hips or legs rather than completing and getting above the feet. Same thing happens with a push-up. If you pull back too soon, rather than following through, leaning in and completing the skill, then the rope won't make it past the jumper's feet. It'll only get past their hands. So those are the most important things to know as the scooper, and then also just making sure that your hands aren't too wide. Get a good loop for your jumper to go through, and make sure that you're communicating, staying on beat.
And then as the jumper, what you want to make sure is you understand the rhythm that they're going. And then when you take off for your frog or your push-up, treat it like a double dutch frog or push-up. You want to make sure that you get a little bit of air time for the frog. And then same thing for the push-up, get off the ground. Because if you take that approach, then with them swinging at the exact same time, you won't have to actually aim for the rope. A lot of kids actually try to go and aim through, and when you aim through, it messes up the turner because they can't actually follow through. So long as you have the same rhythm, you take off and do your frog like normal, and when you do that, or your push-up, and when you do that, if the rhythm's right, it should go all the way through. So we'll show both of them one more time.